try and get to as we'll try and get to as many as possible. But you can feel free to ask those in the chat and I will pass them over to Tamara and or I will answer as many as I can. Perfect. We'll go ahead and kick things off.
Great. Hi, everybody. Like she said, I'm Tamara from Moogly, and today we are making these parade pennants. And these are a really fun and simple crochet project. So to make these, you need Red Heart Super Saver, and I am of course using red, white, and blue for our upcoming holiday. But that's the great thing about this pattern and any crochet pattern. Of course, you can always make it in the colors you love, and Red Heart Super Saver comes in so many wonderful colors. I can't even count them. Too many to count. So you can make these for your favorite sports teams, for your school colors, whatever holiday you might be celebrating. And of course, you can put them on a dowel like I have here and as instructed in the pattern to make, wavable pennant flags. Or you could string them on a string to make the hanging type of pennants like a garland. So it's a really wonderful, versatile pattern. And once you see how these pennants are made, you'll see just how versatile it is. Now, in addition to the triangles that are part of this, we do also have included in it a star that you can add to the striped one or the colored one, whatever you want to do. If you're looking for a great star pattern, this is also just a great star pattern on its own. So in addition to the yarn, you will, of course, if you want to make the parade pennant version with the flag, then you'll need a dowel. So if you're not familiar with dowels, if it's not something you've used in a project before, it's basically just a really long, smooth wooden stick. You can get these at your local Michael's. That's where I got these. The pattern calls for 18 inches long, but it doesn't specify a diameter or a width of the dowel. So you can pick whatever size you honestly like. It's a very easy to adjust pattern to adjust it for the size of the dowel. So it's whatever you feel comfortable with. The pattern does call for an 18-inch long dowel. When I went to my local Michael's, I had the choice between 12-inch and like 48-inch. And I thought for working on camera today, the 12-inch would be a lot simpler. Just a little bit easier. It takes up a little less room on the desk. So I was able to get a whole packet of those if you want to make a whole bunch. I think the 12-inch length is still really good, and it came in a whole variety of widths. So again, you can use whatever is right for you. If you've got the right kind of tree in your backyard, you can go gather some sticks there too. So let's go ahead and set those aside for now. In addition to the sticks and the yarn, of course, you'll need scissors, always handy. Stitch markers might come in handy for you too if you happen to have them available. And you will need a yarn needle to not only weave in those ends, but to sew the pennant onto the dowel. Now, one thing I want to recommend if you are giving these dowels to kids, or if you're going to be waving them quite vigorously, then one thing you might want to do, one additional supply you might want to have is just a little bit of glue. Aleene's tacky glue should work well, E6000, any of those crafting glues that's nice and strong. Elmer's glue, honestly, might even work really well for this, all of which, of course, are also available at Michael's. But when you're sewing that seam on the dowel, it's sewn on here and it's sticking on pretty good. But if I really wanted to, I could pull that dowel back out. So if you wanted to, like I say, just add a couple drops of glue as you're doing that seam, I think that would hold it on just that much more securely. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started crocheting. I'm going to pull in my overhand camera here and ask Felicia to switch it over for me. There we are. All right. Push my little pattern out of the way here. You can see I've got my supplies ready to go. I've got my scissors and my yarn needles and my stitch markers. And I've already made the red and white striped one. So let's start out by making the blue one. Now, the neat thing about the striped pennant and the blue pennant, both of which, if we pull up our pattern here, you can see we've got the instructions for both of those. But if you jump down and read your instructions for the blue pennant, you'll see that you make it with blue, but it's exactly the same as the striped pennant, but without the stripes. So let's go ahead and start on this one, and then we'll bring in some stripes to talk about how to do those color changes, and then I'll show you how to make the star applique and sew it on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our blue one, but before I do that, Allie, are there any questions I could answer right away?
No questions right now.
Okay, excellent. Then we'll continue. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a chain of 4. So we're going to start with a slip knot, or however you like to start your rows of crochet. Get that color a little bit out there and pull this up so we can see a little clearly. So there I have a slip knot. And we're going to start with a chain of 4. So we are going to be working back into that first chain we're making there. So we want to make sure to leave this first chain a little loose. Make sure it's a nice open chain so we can get back in there. So then we go 2, 3, 4. So we've got our chain of 4 there in our blue. And then what we're going to do is for row 1, we're going to work 2 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. So that's that very first one we made. So we can yarn over and work 2 double crochets right in that chain. Now when I do that, I like to go under that back hump of the chain. If you prefer, you can go under the top V, but I like to do it here because it keeps that chain from twisting. And I just think it looks a little nicer. But again, that's just my personal preference. So you can do it however you like, as long as you work in that very first chain that you made to make 2 double crochets. There we are. Now, after we've done that, I like to pull that chain a little bit close. You can go ahead and just give it a tug. There we are. And that closes it up so you don't have that little open gap at the point of your pennant, because we're starting at the point and we're going to be getting wider as we go. So this is great for a couple reasons. First of all, it's got a real easy start like this, but the main thing about starting at the point and getting bigger as you go is that you can also then stop when you have the size of pennant you want to make. So let's say you were making these for little kids, and so you wanted littler ones, you wanted something a little smaller for them. You could go ahead and stop after just, we'll say 3, 6, 9 rows or so, and then add the little flap that we'll learn about for sewing on the dowel and make them a smaller size as well. So you can stop whenever you have the pennant size you like, or keep going past the pattern and make it even bigger. So let's come back here. We have finished row 1. Now with this pattern, those 3 chains we skipped at the beginning and the 3 chains we'll do at the beginning of every row do count as one of the stitches. So if you like, it can be really helpful to use a stitch marker in the top of that chain 3 so that you can always find it. There we are when we come back around for that next row, because that can be really confusing, especially if you're a beginner. So to make row 2, we want to turn and chain 3, or chain 3 and turn, however you like to do it. And again, this chain 3 will be the first stitch of our second row. So I'll go ahead and grab a second stitch marker and put it right under the top 2 loops of that third chain. There we are. I really like using stitch markers at the ends of my rows or in the first stitch of every row because it really helps keep those sides nice and even. So to continue with row 2, we're going to double crochet in that first stitch. So if you read the pattern, it says the same stitch, and that's because that chain 3 counts as our first stitch, so otherwise that stitch would be worked in, but we're increasing. We want basically what counts as 2 stitches in that first stitch. So we'll go right back in that first stitch and make a double crochet. And now we've got 2 stitches made. After that, we just double crochet in each remaining stitch. And of course, that's going to include the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. So since we're only on our little row 2 here, we're already there. So I really like having that stitch marker there. It just makes it easier for my hook to find the path and know exactly which of those 2 loops are the top 2 loops, and lets me know that, yes, this is the top of the chain 3. I don't need to keep going. So once I've got my hook in there, I'll go ahead and remove the stitch marker, set that aside, and finish that double crochet. So at the end of the first row, it counts as 3 stitches, because we're counting that chain 3. And at the end of the second row, we'll have 4 stitches, the chain 3, and then those 3 double crochets. And that is basically what we're going to keep doing. The continuing of the pattern, unless we change colors, is always going to be chain 3. We can go ahead and put our stitch marker in there. There we go. And then turn, or again, turn and chain 3, however you like to do it. And then we double crochet right in that first stitch again for that increase. There we are. And then we double crochet in each remaining stitch across. So every time you make a row, you'll be increasing on that first edge. I need to pull up a little bit more yarn here. And you'll be increasing by 1 stitch per row. So you can see it's very easy to keep going. If you want to go past the length of the written pattern, you can definitely just keep increasing in that first stitch and then working across. Easy as pie. So let's see, we'll finish up row 3 here. Just went right into the top of that marked chain 3. So at the end of row 3, you should have a total of 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like I say, then we just keep going for our blue pennant. We don't change colors at all. So we just keep working rows like this. I've got my chain 3, double crochet right back in that first stitch, and then double crochet across. So in the pattern for the striped pennant, what we do is after the third row, which we just finished before, I'm on the fourth row now, what we would do is we would switch colors. So I'll show you how to switch colors here in a moment, even though we've got 4 rows. Again, it's a crochet project. When you make something for yourself, the point is to make it your own. Well, that's one of the points anyway. Of course, there's also the enjoyment of making it. But like I say, make it your own. If you want longer stripes, go ahead and change colors when you want to change colors in there. Put a narrow stripe in there, wide stripes, whatever you like. So now that I've got my fourth row done, I should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. So Allison, are there any questions I can answer before we talk about changing colors?
No questions right now.
Okay, great. So now if you were changing colors and you wanted really narrow rows, what I would recommend is that you, like for instance, if you were changing colors every 2 rows, then you might want to carry the yarn along the side. However, with this pattern, we don't have a border that we work around the outside to cover those floats up. So it is recommended that you cut your yarn after every stripe. If you wanted to go ahead and add a border by working into that edge, that's something you could absolutely do, but you might not want to tighten up that first chain in case you wanted to work some of your border stitches in there. So that is something to consider too as you're planning your own color scheme for your pennants. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this one down. Like I say, if I was making the blue one according to the instructions, I would just keep going. But we wanted to go ahead and put some stripes in this so we can kind of demo both of them at once. So I will go ahead and cut my yarn. I'm gonna leave a good 6 inches or so I can weave in that end when I'm done. And then I like to just pull that end through. You can pull the yarn end through that last.
Oh, Tamara, I think we lost your audio here.
um, oh,
You're back.
I'm back. Okay, good. I don't know how long it was. Could you hear me when I was saying I was frozen? Or should I go over that again?
No,
Sorry.
we couldn't hear you when you were frozen.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I don't
That's
know.
okay.
The joys of technology, right? Okay. So what I was saying was I've cut my yarn. I've left a good 6 inches or so to weave in. And then you can pull that yarn end through that last stitch to knot it if you like. I like to just pull up on that yarn end so you can see it comes right out of the stitch. So it seems a little loose right now, but when I go to weave that end in, I'll give it a little tug if necessary to close it back up. And then I find it just gives a little bit of a neater edge without the knot there. But again, it's whatever you want to do. It's your project. So I've broken the yarn. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. Just a little bit easier if I go ahead and do the turn before I bring up my new color. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the red because it's a little easier to see here against our white background. So again, you can use whatever colors you want. So what they have you do when it's time to change colors, I would go into that first stitch there and go ahead and hold on to that to end there if you want to too. So I've got my hook in that first stitch. I'll yarn over with my new color and try that again. There we go. Pull that loop up and through the stitch. And then I've still got, you can see here in the fingers of my hook hand that aren't holding the hook, I've kind of got those anchored. And then I will yarn over and do my chain 3. There we are. So that's that chain 3, and then I'll just weave in those 2 ends when I'm all done making this particular pennant. Or I could stop and do it now if I really wanted to, but I like to leave them for the end. So then we would just continue as we were before. Go ahead and work a second double crochet right in that first stitch so we continue that increasing. There we are. And then just double crochet right on across. So if you want to, I know a lot of people like to crochet over their ends, and this is a great opportunity to certainly do that a little bit here, work back over those ends to tack them down. But I do recommend you leave a little bit just to weave in traditionally with the yarn needle as well, unless this is something that's just going to go up on the wall and, hang there and look pretty and not get used or touched much. In which case, just crocheting over those ends might work fine. Otherwise, I really like to weave those ends in. I just feel like it's a lot more secure in general. So there we are. We have our first stripe of red. You can see we're just growing 1 stitch per row as we go through the pattern. So to do our next row here, I'll chain 3 again, turn, right back in that first stitch, and then continue to double crochet across. So again, if you have any questions about anything I'm doing, if you also have some great ideas for these pennants, what would you make them for? How would you alter them, to customize them in different ways for different holidays or different projects? We love hearing different ideas that people have come up with for uses for the patterns. Because I don't know about you guys, but I always think of crochet patterns as kind of a jumping off point, you know? It's um it's a place to start, and sometimes, I'll make it exactly to the instructions, but sometimes I'll take that idea and turn it into what's right for my family. So I would love to hear your ideas for these pennants as well. So now we have 2 rows in that red. There we are. So 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and make a third one because like I say, the striped pennant has you working in stripes of 3 rows each. So we'll chain 3 again and turn, double crochet. Always make sure to go right back in that first stitch that you're increasing, so you're increasing by 1 stitch per row, and then continue to double crochet across. A pretty simple pattern, right? And I love how customizable it is. You really can take this and come up with some really fun projects. So Allison, as I finish up our second stripe here, were there any questions yet that I could answer?
No questions, just
Okay.
a quiet class today.
It is. It is. Everybody must be saving their energy for the weekend. Oh, I see one popped up. When you go into the top stitch, do you grab both loops or just one? For this project, you'll want to work under both of those loops. Let me pull it up here so we can see really well. The red really wants to flare on camera, doesn't it? But you can see here, this is what she's referring to, those top 2 loops of the stitch. And unless it otherwise specifies in the pattern, you generally want to go under both of those top 2 loops every time you make a stitch. Once in a while, so this is a pretty simple pattern, so we'll go ahead and talk about it. We've got a little extra time today. Once in a while, you'll run into a pattern that will specify back loop only or front loop only. And those are referring to those top 2 loops of the V, but those are always relative to the crocheter. So if it says front loop only, then it's the loop that's closest to you. If it says back loop only, it's the loop that's furthest away. So when you turn your work to work in rows, back and forth, the front and the back is still the one closest to you, and the back is still the one furthest away. So again, relative to you, the crocheter, as you look at your crochet. But it would say in a pattern if you wanted to do front loop only or back loop only. Otherwise, you go under both. Now, that said, again, this is your crochet project. If you wanted to try working these rows in the front loop only, it would make it drapier and looser. If you wanted to work these rows in the back loop only, it would add sort of a neat ridged line between the rows that you might really like. Um, it wouldn't necessarily make it any stiffer than it is like this right now. The front loop seems to really add that drape, but the back loop can add a really nice visual textural effect too. So if you want to play with it, there's absolutely no reason not to. All right, so we've got these 3 rows made. And so let's see, with the turning chain, both loops of the turning chain. Yep, when I work into that chain 3, I would go under, I did kind of skip the stitch marker there. Oops, and that one wanted to run away from me. Let me try a different one here. There we go. Right there, those top 2 loops of that chain 3. That's where those stitch markers can come in really handy as you're, there we go, as you're making that chain 3, getting the stitch marker in that top one of that chain 3 can be very useful as you come back around because it can really twist up on you there when you turn to come back the other way. So did that answer your question? I hope so. If not, let us know. Okay, good. All right. So, like I say, I've got my 3 rows here, and they say every 3 rows, but again, wherever you want to make your stripes is fine. So I'll go ahead and cut that yarn and pull up on that loop and weave that in later and turn it. And then we could go back to blue. We could add a stripe of white, whatever we want to do. I think I'm going to do blue because, again, it's just a little easier to see here on our white background. But once again, when it's time to join your new color, we find that last stitch we made. See if I can get that to focus a little better. There we go. Go under both of those loops with that hook. And go ahead and like to grab those ends just for stability. Makes it a little easier. Yarn over, pull that new color through. I'd go ahead and pull it up, to the normal height that you would be stitching at, and then chain 3, and then just go right back in that same stitch for a double crochet. And again, you can, if you want to, crochet over those ends a little bit, especially if it's more of a display piece where it won't actually get ruffled around and be at risk of coming undone. So I will do another row here. And then I think what I'd like to talk about next are what would be rows 16 through, let me see here. Excuse me, row 19 um, through 24. The dowel flap, essentially. My math is leaving me this morning. Rows 19 through 25, excuse me. That would be the dowel flap right here on your pattern. So for the full-size pennant, you would work a total of 18 rows. That's what I've got here. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and then we move to the dowel flap, which is a straight section that we make specifically to go over our dowel. Now, as I mentioned, and as you look at the instructions, you'll see the dowel flap does have those, as would be 6 rows, but that's adjustable too, just like everything else. If you wanted to, make that dowel flap longer for a thicker dowel or stick, you could absolutely do that. If you want to make it a little narrower for a smaller dowel like I have here, you could absolutely do that as well. And I did see a question pop up, but I'm sorry I couldn't read it quick enough before it popped away.
When changing colors, you just start with the slip stitch and then chain
Yep, you
3,
can
correct?
some people like to make a really tight slip stitch down there and then chain 3. I like to kind of just go straight into the chain 3. It seems to be more accurate to the height for me. But it's, whichever you prefer. Also, if you're familiar with some of the chain 3 alternatives, some people like to use those instead. That is an alternative as well if you don't want to use the chain 3. There we are. My stitch marker is helping me out in finding those loops on that last one. There we go. So let's go ahead, like I say, since this is a pretty simple pattern, let's go ahead and take a moment to talk about a couple of those alternatives. Um, when you make the chain 3 to start a row of double crochet, like we've been doing here, it can leave a small gap right there. You can see those little gaps on the side of the chain 3 between the chain 3 and the other stitches. Some people it bothers, some people it does not. With this pattern, it's not as obvious, but if you would prefer to avoid the chain 3 or use a chain 3 substitute, I will show you my favorite one. So I would turn back to come the other direction, and then I like to pull, and then I called this a chainless starting double crochet for lack of a better term. I've pulled this up to about the height of a double crochet. So you can kind of see from your other double crochets, that's about the height of a double crochet, maybe just a hair taller. Then I put my finger on top of that loop to secure it on the hook. So you can see as I move it around, the loop is stuck on the hook right there. Then I will yarn over with the hook itself. So let me do that again. I've got the loop pulled up to the height of a double crochet. I've secured it with my finger. I yarn over with that loop. Then I'll go into that first stitch. I've still got it secured with my finger there. Yarn over and pull up a loop, just like you normally would for a double crochet. Yarn over, pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and then yarn over again. You can release that loop and finish it off. So that is a chainless starting double crochet, and I do have a close-up different separate tutorial for that on my YouTube channel as well if you wanted to check that out again. But that just makes a slightly different look. Let me make the rest of the row here so you can kind of see to compare and contrast what those different techniques give you here. So I'll work the rest of this row across, and then we'll be able to compare to 2 rows below where I have a chain 3 there on the same side so you can see the difference. So I see we've had a couple other comments. Were there any other questions I could answer while I finish up this row here?
Not any that I
Okay.
see.
Okay, great. So I'm just gonna throw these last few in here so that we've got a good base to make our dowel flap on. But this is the last one. So if we come back then over here to our side, you can say here I started this row and get that a little angled there. This row I started with the chain 3. So you can see there's a little more space there between that chain 3 and the other stitches. And this one right here is that chainless starting double crochet I did. You can see that's really sort of eliminated that gap. It's not as thin as a chain 3. It looks quite a bit more, it really is a double crochet. So that is one of the many chain 3 alternatives that you can use. It's probably my favorite. But if you want a slightly different look on your sides, that would be sort of an advanced technique that you could add to your crochet toolbox. So, like I said, I think you've got the idea. just increase in that first stitch and you'll keep growing your pennant. You can make it as long as you'd like or go to 18 rows as instructed in the pattern. So when you've done that, it's time to go to the dowel flap. If you're making a solid color pennant, you wouldn't change color. Here, if you are following the instructions for the striped pennant, or if you just wanted to, you could change colors again to make the dowel flap in a different color, which is what I've done here as instructed for the striped pennant. But we're going to do the way we want to do it because it's our crochet project. So let's go ahead and move right on to the dowel flap for this one. Would be row 19. So we're going to simply chain one and turn, or turn and chain one, however you like to do it, and then single crochet in each stitch across. So we're no longer increasing. We also, since that chain one does not count as a stitch, want to make sure that we work into that first stitch. And now we just want to work evenly in rows. And like I said, this pattern calls for a total of 6 rows. It would be the first row and then repeat it 5 more times. So that would be 6 total. But again, it's adjustable. If you've got thicker dowels than the designer used, shout out to the designer, by the way, Ron Strong, excellent crochet designer. If you use thicker dowels than he did, you might need to make that flap a little bit longer. If you used thin dowels, I found some relatively thin ones that jumped out at me. Um, Looking at the pictures, these are probably a bit thinner than his, so I might have eliminated a couple of those rows. But, make a couple of them, put your dowel in there, see how it fits. And if you're putting it on a string, then you can adjust this however you need to for that particular project. So let's see, I'm coming to the end here. And when I work into that top of that chainless starting double crochet, again, just like the chain 3, I want to make sure that I go under both of those loops that really want to stick together. There we are. Both of those loops at the top of the stitch. There we are. So now we've got 1 row of single crochet worked even. Same number of stitches in this row as we had wherever we left off, increasing. And then, like I say, we would just continue adding rows until we have enough to work around our dowel. So again, if you guys have any great ideas that you want to share about how to use these pennants or how you plan on using them, maybe for this holiday or a future holiday, I think these would also be great for birthday parties. You can make them, in the birthday kids' favorite colors, decorate them with appliques, of little cakes or their favorite things. On mooglyblog.com, I have a series of crochet letters and numbers, so you could spell things out. The possibilities really are pretty endless for this pattern. So now I've got a second row of single crochet. So with the dowels, this is where I might start pulling it up and saying, okay, that's not going to be enough to go all the way around my dowel. That's the length we need. So I'm going to keep adding rows, basically. This is where you can really kind of customize it for your own project, how you plan on using these pennants and whatever dowels you happen to pick up at your local Michaels. I will say to find the dowels in my Michaels, and I suspect all of them are arranged a little bit differently. But of course they weren't in the yarn section, although they were closer than I expected. Our Michaels has a big section with all the wooden crates and boxes and things, but the dowels were over in a different section. So if you head to that section in your Michaels and you're getting frustrated not finding the dowels, be sure to ask somebody. For me, they were along the back wall, I think, over by some other general crafts and things. So that's just where they fit in my store. So again, if you're looking for them in yours and not finding them, definitely find somebody and ask because they may not be where you expect them to be. So I've got 3 rows here of the single crochet. You can see, I just want you to see we're no longer increasing. We're now working straight, and that's what we want for our dowel flap rows. All right, so I've got a couple more rows to add here for mine. Allie, did I see a question pop up or?
Yes, I'm just letting everyone know what the Michael's YouTube channel
Ah,
is
excellent.
here.
Great. So working across here. And I will say too, after now it probably won't happen in time for the 4th of July because it is July 1st as I'm speaking, but two, if you decide to come back and make these later, you will find the recording of this class on the Michael's YouTube channel. And it might be up by the 4th. I don't know, Allie, do you think this one will be up by the 4th? It's probably pushing it.
Classes are usually posted to the Michael's YouTube account 24 hours
Oh,
later.
excellent. Excellent. I didn't know with the holiday what was going on. So want to make sure everybody gets a chance to enjoy their holiday as well. But yeah, so there you go. Hopefully it will be up within 24 hours on the Michael's YouTube channel. and you'll be able to follow along there. Also, I will say, since it is a recording at that point, you'll be able to fast forward or slow it down as needed. So if you need to see any of those stitches really slow or, jump to the part you want to see, you can definitely play with the speed of the video as well as jumping around in it. That's something I do a lot, I know, when I am watching YouTube tutorials. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows so far of that single crochet. It might be enough for my little dowel. Although, like I say, the pattern calls for 6, but yeah, with my little guy, that would probably be just about the right size. If you've got a really thick dowel or using a stick from the backyard or something like that, you might need to add a couple more rows to make it fit around. But it's really just a matter of making that flap long enough to go around the dowel or stick or string or whatever it is of your choice. So once we've got a dowel flap that's long enough for our dowel, then we can go ahead and break our yarn. Now, here's a good tip. It says just fasten off like it does everywhere else. But if you do that, you're going to have to cut a new piece of yarn to sew the dowel on with. Why do you want to make an extra end to weave in? I don't know about you guys, but I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up the length of yarn that I need to sew this onto my dowel so it's already attached and it's those 2 less ends to weave in when I'm done. So what I like to do to pre-measure that yarn to make sure that I'm cutting it long enough is I would lay it out across the seam that I want to sew. So I know, so you can see right there, it's kind of disappearing into itself. I've got that laid across the end of my pennant, and then I'll come back again for the same width. And then just to be sure, I like to add a third one. You want to make sure too that you have enough ends to weave in. So whatever you feel comfortable with, that'll give you a good start without giving you, such a whole 36 inches of length or something. You don't need that long, just long enough to sew the seam. But of course you don't want to run out halfway through either. So now I've got the long piece here that I will use to sew my dowel on. So I will just pull that end up like I would with all my other ends here. And then I would go ahead and weave in those ends before I sewed it onto the dowel or before I sewed on the star, because of course that's part of this pattern too. So for now, I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to grab a little piece of cloth here to lay down so that you can see as I work in the white yarn a little better. This right here is the star that is included with this pattern, the star applique. And like I said, this is a great star. So if you maybe aren't interested in pennants, next week, but you really need some stars, this is a great little star to make. These would also make great holiday ornaments all by themselves. You could stick a little hook in the top and just have a lot of fun with this whole applique pattern. Okay, so here I've got one star that I finished, and you can see I did the same thing that I was just talking about with the pennants. Because we're going to sew this on to the pennant, it's a good idea to go ahead and leave that really long end so that your end for sewing is already attached. So now let's pull up some white yarn and we can go ahead and get started making the star applique. So again, I'm using white. That's what it calls for in the pattern, but you can use whatever color you want. And I'm going to, just as before, start with our chain 4. So it starts off exactly the same way here. You can put your slip knot on your hook. There we are. And then chain 4. And what's funny, you see me, I snug that up, but then I realize you can't really see it. I'm using my fingers to pull it back down a little bit. I always pinch my slip knot just to make sure it's big enough to get back through there when I have to work back into that chain. So don't get it too tight on your hook. You do want to be able to work back in there. And I'm realizing this cloth is making the camera focus change. So I'll try and actually work down here a little bit, and hopefully that will help. So let's try our chain 4. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to work 14 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. That skipped chain 3 is going to count again as our first double crochet. So if you want to, this is another place, you can go ahead and put a stitch marker rather, right in the top of that last chain. That's focusing there. There we go. Camera really doesn't want to stay in focus today. We'll try and work with that as best we can here. So now, like I say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 14 double crochets right into that very first chain that we made down there at the bottom. So again, you can work into whatever part of the chain you like. I like when you're making 14 in it like this, you might start out working into that back lump, but it's going to basically create a circle so that you're able to join to that first one that you've made. So you may start out working around one part of it, but as you go around, you'll be working around all of that first chain as you go. So let's see, there's 2, and I want to have a total of 15 stitches, including that chain 3. So that means I need to work quite a few more. So you can see here, I am just going into that first chain, and it's kind of pulling open a little bit as I'm working those stitches into it, and that's totally fine. Just like the other one, we can always snug it up a little bit by pulling on that tail end when we're done. Some people really like to start all their circles this way, instead of using something like the magic circle. It's, again, up to you. The great thing about crochet is you can use whatever techniques and little tricks you like to get you the finished project that you love. So let's see where we're at here. While I talk, I can never count. I can't seem to do both at the same time. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got a few more to go here. So let's see, 1, 2, that would be 11, 13, 14, and should have a total of 15. So I think one more. Now I find when I do this sometimes, I don't know if you can see, that tail end, as I've been crocheting into that chain there, it really wants to pull forward for some reason. As I'm stitching, just the action of the stitching always tends to pull that little tail forward. Not a big deal. You can go ahead and pull that through if you like, and just flip it to the back again. It can hang out there on the back then. It'll be just fine. So let's see. I think I had one more to go, but I'm not sure. So we'll count them together here. Don't forget to count that chain 3. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Got 2 more to go. I need a total of 15 stitches. So there's 1. Pull up a little bit more yarn here for my skein. And here's, oops, 2. There we are. You can see that little tail end wanted to pull through again. I'll just pull that through and flip it to the back. It just really likes to do that. I think it's the friction of the stitches themselves. So once we've got 15 stitches made there for our first round, it would be round 1, then what we want to do is go ahead and slip stitch in the top of that beginning chain 3. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to insert my hook there in the top of that chain 3 and slip stitch, and now we have a nice great big circle. Now, one other thing, this isn't included in the pattern, but a tip that I really like to do when I'm working in the round like this, let's see if I can get that to focus. That white really wants to blow out on camera, but you can see right there is the slip stitch, and it's very easy to accidentally count that slip stitch as one of your stitches, and then you'll think, oh my gosh, how did I do this? I have an extra stitch left, or, I must be off somewhere, where you're doing fine. It's just that slip stitch. So what I like to do is go ahead and put a second stitch marker in the last actual stitch of that round, just so that I know, that what's in between is the slip stitch. So that's my last stitch, and that's my first stitch, but what's in between there is the slip stitch, and I'll know that I don't need to try and work back into that, unless, of course, the pattern tells me to. So we'll get our work back on our hook here, and then we'll continue with round 2. Excuse me. So for round 2, we simply start with a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we just chain those right off of our round 1 there. And then we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And this is where I really do recommend that you don't work into that top V, but work into that back hump or lump of the chains if you can. It just makes for a much smoother star applique. You can see if I pull up the finished one here, how that keeps a really smooth line that you can work into later. So we're going to skip that first one right there closest to the hook. Get that to focus just a little better. There we go. And then we go to the second one right there. And that's where we're going to put our single crochet. And then we need to grow the little point of our star. So we half double crochet in the next chain, double crochet in the chain after that. And then this is a stitch you may not have used before we're going to treble crochet in that last chain, the one right before we get back to our circle here. So for a treble crochet, it's just like a double crochet, but with one extra yarn over. So we yarn over twice, go into that chain, and with treble crochets, you do kind of want to maintain a little more tension on your yarn and try and keep those loops a little closer together on your hook. This will prevent your treble crochets from getting what I always call is leggy. They kind of like to get stretched out. But if you keep those loops closer together and a little bit more tension on your working yarn, then it seems to really help with the legginess basically of those trebles. So I've yarned over and pulled through my loop. So now, just as we would for, most other stitches, we'll yarn over and pull through two, and yarn over and pull through two. Because it's a treble, we've got to do it one more time. Yarn over and pull through two to finish that stitch. So that is a treble crochet stitch if you've never made one before. But we're going to be making a few more. So what we do next is so I'm trying to check my instructions, make sure I get it right here. We skip the next two double crochets and slip stitch to the double crochet after that. So we know this is our first marked stitch. All this essentially counts as having been worked in that stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stitch marker out of the way. So that is our first stitch there. We're going to skip the next two and single crochet, or excuse me, slip stitch. Yes, slip stitch to the stitch after that. So we skip two, find the next one, insert our hook, yarn over, and pull through. So just a nice tight slip stitch right there. We don't need to work back into that slip stitch at all, so you don't have to make it a loose one. You can make it nice and tight. Then we're going to repeat that process again. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip the stitch closest to the hook, the chain closest to the hook. Single crochet in the chain after that. Half double crochet in the chain after that. Double crochet in the chain after that. Pull up some more yarn because I need that. And then we finish with our treble. Yarn over twice. Go into that last chain before our circle there. It's usually right up nice and tight against our circle. Yarn over and pull up our loop. Yarn over and pull through two. Yarn over and pull through two. And yarn over and pull through two. And we've got our second point. So we slip stitched this stitch, so it's considered worked in. So then we skip the next two. 1, 2, and slip stitch in the one after that. Then we do it again. We'll do that 3 more times, of course, so we have a total of 5 points on our star. So I'm going to kind of get through these here a little bit quicker so that we can get to our third round of these appliques. But the third round is really pretty simple. It is simply working a round of single crochet all the way around our star. When you do that, hopefully I'll be able to get there, oops, so I can show you. But just in case we run out of time, for that third round, you'll want to single crochet in the tops of each of these stitches. Then you can single crochet in that chain one there, that skipped chain at the end if you want to. Play with it a little bit and see what you like. It doesn't really specify um, so much in the pattern. You can kind of figure out what looks best for you. And then you'll, of course, single crochet down the backs of those stitches right there, or rather the tops of those stitches that we've made. And then go ahead and skip over that slip stitch and jump over to that next chain basically right here. I found that that worked out really well. So let me just try and get around here so we can do that together. In the meantime, again, if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask them in the chat. Just have to get through these last few here so that we can do that round 3 together. So while I make these, Allie, did you have, well, we were talking before the class, there were so many fun things that you could do with this pattern. What were some of your favorite ideas?
I really like the idea of turning it into kind of a banner,
Yeah,
but I also like the idea of just using the stars for different things.
yeah, it is a really, really simple, great star pattern. There's so many great Red Heart yarns too, and Red Heart Super Saver comes in so many great varieties. You could do chunky stars with Red Heart, Super Saver Chunky. You could do ombre stars with their ombre line. Sorry, trying to chat and crochet at the same time. There's really so many great options there. And then I think it would be fun too at Christmas time to use something like Red Heart Huga, which if you guys haven't tried it before, is a beautiful kind of furry textured yarn. I think that would make a really, really gorgeous holiday display as well. All right, so here, phew, got through them. We've got our 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all identical, I hope. We've got our last stitch there we worked out of. If we skip 2, then we're skipping that last marked stitch. We know we're in the right spot because to finish it off, we just slip stitch in that very first chain. So we skip over that last stitch. Sorry, it looked like it froze there for a second. Skip over that last one, and then we did our chain 5 there. You can see that's right there. There's that last marked stitch. There's the slip stitch. So there is that first chain that we made, and that's where we want to work our slip stitch to finish off round 2. There we are. Okay, so now I can show you round 3. We're just going to chain 1 and single crochet around. So we chain 1, that's the stitch I slip stitched to, so I want to go back in there. And then if you'd like, you can go ahead and move a stitch marker up to that stitch so we know when we've gotten all the way around. There we are. And then you just work right on up the side of that point. There we are. And then when you get to the top, I like to try and work one into that chain that we skipped, but it is optional. And sometimes it wants to be a little tricky to get under. There we go. So just go right under that chain that we skipped at the top for another one. And then we work right back down, right back down the other side there in each of those stitches. So the single crochet, the half double crochet, and the double crochet all the way down. Oops. I say it and I try to make it. Threw a yarn over in there. So we work our way down across those stitches like so. And then we come right back here and you see that right there is that slip stitch again that we did to tack that point down. So we want to go ahead and just skip right over that slip stitch and jump to that chain of the next point. And that's just going to create a really nice smooth line here, which will make it easier to sew on to your finished pennant. But I would just continue to single crochet all the way around. And then when I get to the end of this round 3 here, you can join to that first one you made. And then again, you want to go ahead and cut a really long end so you can use that end to sew it on. You can also, if you want to, close up that center circle a little bit using that tail. You can see I just gave it a tug there and it's already, oops, quite a bit smaller there. And if you really wanted to close it up so it was completely closed in the middle, you could use that tail end and your yarn needle to close that up as well, but that is optional. So I'm going to go ahead and set that one aside and bring in our finished one here. Since we're at our last 10 minutes, I want to make sure to go over how to sew it on. So we have to sew on our finished pennant here. You can see there's my already finished one. And you can see hopefully you can see, I have just folded that flap over and then sewn it down. So let's pull up our little guy here, our little sample guy. And I'm going to find my yarn end, my nice long one for sewing, and put that on my yarn needle. A yarn needle is just like a sewing needle, but it's bigger, has a bigger hole, so your yarn fits through it. It's usually also duller. I wouldn't want to do that with a sewing needle. So we pull our end through a little bit there, and then we can pull up our dowel. Let me find the one that's not already attached to something. And we would just lay that right over our dowel flap. So wherever we want it to be. So this is where you might want to go ahead and, like I say, add that little bit of glue if you want to. You can do it from either side, whichever side makes you happy when you're sewing. I think I'd probably actually prefer to go this way now that I've laid it out. You just sort of line it up and then fold it over, and you can use your yarn needle to start sewing right through that end. Now I found I like to put a little extra stitch. Oops, went off camera. I like to put a little extra stitch there right at the top to sort of hold it, right across the top there so that the stick didn't want to find its way through. But I would just go right in. Let me go ahead and pull this out of the way. I think it's actually causing more problems now that we're not using a white yarn anymore. So I would just pull that right through like so. And then as long as you're using that same color yarn, it's gonna, whatever you do is gonna be pretty well hidden. So I like to just take that little extra stitch right, is that the focus there, right there across the top to really close up the top so that that dowel doesn't slide right back through. So with that done, then I would take my time and just add a drop or two as glue as you go so that it doesn't dry out by the time you get to the bottom, especially if you're making a bigger one. But you can just add a little bit of glue there. And I would recommend not using hot glue simply because you're going to be up here sewing with your fingers. That seems like a recipe for disaster. But you just sew back and forth through that last row and through the other side here. I like to just kind of come up underneath. I don't know if you can see that. Come up underneath those top two loops of one stitch and then go back down under those top two loops and on through for the next stitch. Of course, then I end up, boy, there we are. Trying to show it, moved it around, but you just keep going back and forth, catching each of those stitches, and it should be sewn on pretty well. Again, if this was something you were giving young children, you'd probably definitely want to use some glue and maybe a few more stitches than I'm using here just to get it as secure as you can. So I would get all the way across here to the bottom. And like I say, you can take your time, just kind of open up that flap and dab in a little glue as needed. And then when you get to the bottom, I will probably bring my, you can see here, that seam really does just disappear right into the yarn. But I would bring it right back here to the back a little bit, a little easier. And then just go ahead and weave in that end along the dowel as best you can. I like to always send my yarn ends in two different directions. So now I've gone up the dowel, I would go back down the dowel. And that really seems to help lock in those yarn ends. Here we are. And again, if it was something, I was giving to a small child, I might weave that in even more. But I think for our purposes today, that'll work just fine. So I trim that off and now it's attached. So we'll have those other ends to weave in, but those are going to wait for later. Now I want to talk about sewing on the actual applique. Again, totally optional, but a lot of fun if you wanted to add whatever sort of applique you want to your project. So I've got my full-size pennant here, according to the written instructions, and I find my finished star here. And again, in the written one, they have you adding the star to the blue pennant, but you can do whatever colors, mix it up however you like. Hopefully this will show up pretty good here against the red and white. So what you want to do when you're sewing on a pennant, I always really like to take my time and get it lined up exactly where I want it to be on my finished project. And then I'll pull those stitch markers back in, one of my favorite tools. And I will use those stitch markers to help me sort of tack it down. So for something like a star, I might just tack those ends, but I'll get them sort of attached to my fabric so that I know exactly where I'm going to be sewing it on, and so it doesn't move around on me while I'm stitching. And that's a really easy thing to do to start sewing on an applique. Definitely something I've learned the hard way. You can think it's all lined up and start sewing it on one side, and you get halfway around and it's gone wonky, it's gotten twisted, and it's just not at all where you wanted it to be anymore. So most of these tips are definitely things I learned the hard way myself. So happy to share them with you. So we want to make sure that our end there, our sewing end, is coming out from the back side, that we've got our right side up. Another good tip, make sure you've got your right side facing, and that we haven't trapped that underneath. We want have it still sticking out. I would, however, recommend that you go ahead and weave in that first end, the center end, before you sew this on. It's going to be a whole lot more difficult after it's sewn on. There we are. Oop. Okay, so we've got that tacked down exactly where we want it. So then, just like when we sewed our pennant onto the dowel, we put that yarn end on our needle, get it down there so we don't accidentally pull through all the way. And then, just as before, you can simply stitch it right to your pennant. Now, first thing you may think of is if I go through all the way, let me see here. If I go through all the way, just like I did with our blue one, and then come back up through those stitches, let's go ahead and do a couple of those, which is how I would normally do it. But as you'll see here, go down to that next one, and up through this one. When I flip it over, you're going to see where those little stitches are in the non-matching colors. So what you can do instead, I'm actually going to jump over here. I'm going to cheat for the sake of time and jump over here. We've got some contrasting colors. What I would do on this, in this section, get it nice and focused there, I would go ahead and go through both of those loops of my applique, but then on the pennant, you want to just kind of try and catch a couple of surface stitches that are right there, and then come right back up into the applique. Now, before I even pull this needle through, I'm going to flip it over. If I can see the needle on the opposite side, then I'm going to be able to see that stitch. So if I can see the needle, I would pull it back out and do that again. Since I can't see the needle, then odds are when I pull this through, and of course it's a little wonky here in front since I'm cheating and jumping across the applique, you can see now you can't see that stitch, but it is attached to the front there. So let me go ahead and take this yarn needle out of the way, or excuse me, stitch marker, out of the way and hit the camera because why not? There we are. So I would just continue to do that around, go into the next stitch, and then just try and catch that top layer essentially of stitches underneath. And that will allow you to sew that applique on without it showing through to the other side. And just when you get that needle in there, flip it over and check. If you can see the needle on the opposite side, then you'll be able to see the yarn after you pull it through. So that's sort of my best tip there for sewing on appliques. So hopefully it will help you add your stars or your little cupcakes or whatever you want to add to your own perfect little parade pennants here. So Allie, were there any other questions I could answer here we've got everything on camera?
No other questions.
Excellent. Well, it is a pretty simple pattern, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll go ahead and come back to the other camera, I think. And there we go. All right, and move that out of the way. Just wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday on whatever you're celebrating this weekend or wherever you are. And I do hope you try this pattern. It's a lot of fun. Try all the variety of colors and different shades of Super Saver, and you'll have all sorts of custom pennants for all sorts of parties and anything you want to celebrate this year. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.